Today I'm installing the foot pegs in the kayak. I went back and forth on a couple of different places where I thought I wanted to put these things, and today I finally made a decision. I took some measurements off the plastic kayak and I looked at the instructions, and at the end of the day I used a little bit of measurements off of the plastic kayak and a little bit of, well, that looks about right. So I've already done the other side, the front and the back. You can kind of see it, it's dark up there. And now I'm working on the bottom. You can see these little black Sharpie marks at the top and bottom. Those will get sanded out, but that's how I figured out how far from the seats I wanted them. And I'm lining up centered on this mahogany strip instead of trying to take any measurements either from this midpoint or the center of the boat or anything where I could have screwed up and made it hard to measure from. It might not be perfect, but visually having them lined up on this mahogany strip on both sides will make it look like they're the same distance from the center point or from the edge or something along that. Your eyes should follow the mahogany strip and think that it's centered. The kit I bought is off of Chesapeake Lightcraft. It comes with fiberglass and these little pegs. So right now what I'm doing is lining it up with my Sharpie mark on the front and back, and also comparing it to the other side to make sure I really did line it up on the Sharpie mark front and back so that they're mostly the same. And then I'm going to take my Sharpie here and I'm going to mark 3 sides that I can reach on each one. And then I'll pull the foot peg off and I'll mark the 4th side on each one, so I have a good frame of reference for where each peg needs to go. And then I'll put some tape on the threads of all of these, and then we'll start fiberglassing them in place. I should probably take the top off the kayak. It'd be a lot easier to reach that one. But right now, the way I have it all strapped together, because I'm still trying to figure out where to put the hooks for the seats and stuff like that, I'm just fighting through it and reaching up here to do these front ones. So you can laugh at me while I'm doing it. So this first batch of epoxy is pretty thick. It's actually really thick. The idea is to have a nice solid chunk of epoxy here. The foot pegs themselves will cover a majority of what's going on here. So when I did the other side, I mixed my thickened epoxy, and I only did the back 2 pegs because I was still trying to figure out what it was I was doing. And by the time I went to start doing the front pegs, the epoxy almost started to kick. You could start feeling it warm up just a little. So this time I'm doing the front and the back at the same time. It's 94 degrees in the shop today. I probably have the wrong hardener, so it's probably kicking a little quicker than it would have if I had a different hardener. I also had the kayak tilted a little less when I did the other side, and I had a little bit of an issue with the thinner epoxy running. So this time when I set up the kayak, I made sure that mahogany strip was closer to being on the bottom. All right. Now we can double check that our pegs are in the right spot. Oh. That one's good, except I touched it. Need to flatten the fiberglass back out a little. And then we'll check this front one, which is a little bit harder to get to. Oh. The tape lost its point. Nice. Very nice. I did have to drill the holes out on these foot braces a little. The pegs are bigger, but there you can see the little curly Q twisty I put on the top of the pieces of tape. This one, some of the metal's showing, but that's okay. The foot peg will be over the top of it. You'll never see that. So that's it. I'll give this about an hour, and then I'll come out here and make another batch of epoxy and fill the weave a little bit more, just to make sure it's filled. But that's installing the foot pegs. and then in a couple hours I can peel the tape off, put the foot pegs on there, and bolt them in with the hardware that they came with. I did not tighten these down all the way. The pegs are not completely hardened. You can't move them at this point, which is why I felt it would be okay to go ahead and put the foot pegs on to see how they looked. But I didn't want to start cranking down on those lock nuts and possibly pulling the peg away from the wood. So I don't really think the little pressure from the foot pegs and gravity is going to affect anything at this point. So, but that's it for that hardware.